Honorable Lenora Qereqeretabua to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I return all honor, glory, and praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who has sustained me, lifted my head, given me strength and provision during this journey. It is an honor and privilege to stand in this house to deliver my maiden speech, knowing that my beloved parents and husband are sitting in the public gallery behind me. I congratulate you, Madam Speaker, on your reappointment and wish you good health. And I also offer my congratulations to my former broadcasting colleague, the Honorable Bina Bhatnagar, on her election to the position of Deputy Speaker. I congratulate the honourable members of the House, especially the ladies on both sides, for your election to represent our people here. The voters definitely want to see a change, and I believe that behind having 10 women voted in is the hope that we will transform this House into a place where we will see more inclusiveness and bipartisanship. I acknowledge the brave and often outspoken contributions of former NFP MPs, Mr. Pramod Chand of Lombasa and Mr. Prem Singh of Nandi. Madam Speaker, I enter this House at a time when we face serious challenges as a nation, where the cost of living is high and the minimum wage low, where the classroom is one of the most stressful places to work, where certain sections of the media are either muzzled or have completely lost our trust, where the election campaigning has led to victimization is a reality, preventing many individuals, communities, and companies from actively and openly supporting political parties opposed to the Fiji First Party. We're returning home and contributing actively in their country is not a country from within these walls. And this was after government announced this time last year that it was going to spend $35,000 to welcome home a government delegation to the COP23 meetings in Bonn. A delegation that had gone to work, earning salaries and allowance in the Southern Hemisphere. On record, as well as the strongest to make landfall in the Southern Hemisphere, devastated much of the country and tragic $1,000 on a celebration, while huge parts of these same divisions still lay in ruin and many children face the reality of beginning the new school year, January 2018, still under tents. Important. Yes, Madam Speaker, this same traditional protocols that were shamefully set aside just last month. Traditionally, the party was cancelled. And finally, a toned down and, I hope, a cheaper welcome event was decided upon. And one of the units I took was legal studies. And this is a course that I believe we should take seriously, that I believe we should seriously look to introducing to year 9 students if we want to raise civic-minded citizens. Madam Speaker, civics and citizenship education builds students' knowledge and understanding on the ways citizens can actively participate in their country's diverse society. Students learn about the civic institutions and the processes through which decisions are made for the common good of the community. And they also develop the skills and understanding that relate to the organization of a harmonious democratic society. These are the skills that will allow students to effectively participate in society and become responsible and informed and active citizens. The challenge in Fiji right now, Madam Speaker, is not that people are uneducated. The challenge is that many are educated just enough to believe what they've been told, but not educated enough to question. And here is where tyranny can reign unchecked. The media, Madam Speaker, provides a vital role in discerning fact from fiction, reporting thereof from a neutral and unbiased perspective. We assume expertise as well as a professional attitude on the part of journalists, the providers of our news. This assumption implies something that is of even more value than expertise and professionalism, and that is trust. In Fiji, our media is either muzzled or has completely lost our trust. Misinformation matters because media outlets have great power. They shape the way we understand the world and ultimately drive our behavior. It is no exaggeration to say that their activity can have life or death implications. As a member of the indigenous people of this country, Madam Speaker, I'm very conscious of the fact that there are only 500,000 of us on this planet, out of a population of 7.7 billion. Our language is unique to us, as are our indigenous traditions. It is only natural that when there are so few of you, the urge to preserve what can be lost is keenly felt. It is not racist, therefore, to want to preserve my language and traditions. It is not racist to want to ensure that the native traditional lands and fisheries of the first people of Fiji are protected. The Honourable Qereqeretabua was told to say, quote and unquote, when he mentioned the traditional titles of the chiefs and chiefly households that he wanted to pay tribute to yesterday, because the standing orders prohibit members from speaking in their mother tongue. This must change, Madam Speaker. This is the people's house after all. So how is it that we, the people, cannot use our own languages here? These are the languages we learned at birth. These are the languages in which we express our most intimate feelings. Why should this house only be a place for people who can speak good English? How can we talk about preserving our unique languages, our many Fijian dialects, our special Fiji Hindi, if we cannot speak those languages here? The Parliament of New Zealand made Te Reo Maori an official language in 1985, Madam Speaker. MPs in New Zealand can address the House in Te Reo with the use of an interpreter. We can have translators in our courts, so why can we not have them in this House? Eventually, we could move to simultaneous translation with trained translators, and this is what happens everywhere else. This is the 21st century. We have technology here that can record what we say and how we vote. So it is not hard to have simultaneous translation. Good, high-quality translators would not just be useful in Parliament. They could have skills we could use in many other settings where dialogue and consultation are required. Madam Speaker, this is not about practicalities. This is about being willing to do it. And we should do it. It is about our unity, our dignity as Fijians of all races, and our pride in our country and our culture. On the subject of human rights, Madam Speaker, I wish to remind the honourable members of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, an international campaign to challenge violence against women and girls. The campaign runs every year from the 25th of November, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, to the 10th of December, Human Rights Day. Now that Fiji has been elected to the United Nations Human Rights Council, Madam Speaker, I hope that the government will take a long, hard look at the Amnesty International report on Fiji, pointing out the need for government to establish an independent and effective mechanism to investigate and address the systematic use of violence by security forces and police, and to make such reports public. I have heard in several speeches this week how the Fiji First government has led the way in climate change actions. Since March 2012, residents and members of the public have been lobbying government for the protection and non-industrialization of Mraunimbota Bay in Lami, home to one of the few large remaining stands of mangroves in the Suva area. Madam Speaker, an EIA submission by the proposed developers had showed major errors. Proper procedures were definitely not followed. In October 2012, the Bay of Islands Preservation Group was formed, and what we do is we raise awareness to save Nraunimboto Bay from industry and the destruction of over 36 acres of mangroves for proposed industrial development. And so far, Madam Speaker, we have been successful. In 2015, the Honourable Prime Minister stood on the shores of Nraunimboto Bay and released 7,000 young mud crabs. He gave a speech, and this is what he said, I quote, "Nothing is more important to every Fijian than the preservation of our environment, and especially those living things on which we all depend for food and for making a living. So I am especially delighted to be here today to celebrate a wonderful event, the release of several thousand baby mud crabs into the wild to help repopulate the mangroves of Nraunimboto Bay," unquote. But in that same month, Madam Speaker, April 2015, the land in Nraunimboto Bay was rezoned to allow commercial building, heavy industry, and car parking. In May 2015, we appealed against the rezoning to the Environment Minister with a petition signed by 560 people. Then another developer bought the site, fenced it, and cleared it of mangroves. 2 years after we lodged our appeal, Madam Speaker, in May 2017, the then Minister for Environment, the Honourable Praveen Bala, disallowed our appeal. Now approval has been given to build a paint factory on the rezoned land. A paint factory, Madam Speaker, right next to mangroves. Madam Speaker, did you know that if you want a copy of an environmental impact assessment report, you must pay $4.85 per page? Some EIA's reports have hundreds of pages, Madam Speaker, but you cannot get a soft copy emailed to you, nor can you go and photocopy the report yourself. So being able to challenge changes to our environment is a costly exercise. And yet the people who are most affected by development are often the poorest people. What will government do to improve this? The saga surrounding the destruction of the cloud forest in Wainisawulewuia by EFL is another example of how carelessly we view sustainable development, where inadequate public consultations are the norm, where there is a disconnect between the overseas preaching and local action. There were even attempts to hide the truth, Madam Speaker. Now, let's come closer to home, or should I say work. How many single-use PET bottles does this House go through each day, each week? I reckon that during one working day, more than 100 single-use plastic bottles for this chamber alone. Multiply that by 5 days, Madam Speaker, and you have a lot of plastic bottles. I would like to invite this House to please consider phasing out single-use plastic bottles. Our parliamentary offices have filtered water dispensers, which are a blessing. So why can't all of us honourable members consider bringing our own reusable water bottles from home and filling them up at the dispensers? Or, God forbid, why can we not just drink plain tap water like most of the people who voted us into this House? As one of our sayings from Kandavo goes, Madam Speaker, and I quote, "Maya so." I myself use a reusable water bottle with a filter that I change every 2 months or so, depending on tap water quality. Secondly, we should go through a lot of paper in this House, Madam Speaker, and since we MPs are being supplied with smartphones and laptops, I hope we can use a little bit less paper in our communications. Thirdly is the air polluting habit of government four-wheel drive vehicles. Waiting for their honourable passengers, no matter the duration of their meetings or meals, with both engine and air conditioning running. May I urge honourable members to consider asking their drivers to cease this practice for the sake of cleaner air, your health and environment. Madam Speaker, there is a young lady called Anne-Marie Randuva who has already made a name for herself as a young environmental activist. Madam Speaker, Anne-Marie, with the help of her family, has started a campaign called Say No to Balloon Releasing. Anne-Marie has written a letter to the Honourable Prime Minister in the hope that the government, along with stakeholders, will classify releasing balloons into the air as littering. Anne-Marie started her campaign after watching a balloon release recently to celebrate the launch of Walesi, and after watching a YouTube video with her sister, which showed turtles and seabirds dying from swallowing plastics and pieces of balloons. Madam Speaker, Anne-Marie is only 14 years old and is a Year 9 student of Andirakumbau School. And she deserves our credit and assistance to not only see her project succeed, but to promote her as an activist. On equality, Madam Speaker, I would like to respectfully ask the Honourable Minister for Education to please look urgently at levelling the playing field in regards to education resourcing in the maritime areas and rural areas, so that children of Kandavu, for example, can compete more strongly with their peers in urban centres. This would be a huge step towards true equality. Honourable Qereqeretabua on Tuesday said his information was that transportation and shipping had never been better because of the franchise shipping system. I don't know how many times the Honourable Minister travels as an everyday citizen, because while this is true in terms of regularity for us islanders, I invite him to travel like I do, like my parents often do, and like most of us islanders do, in vessels that are dangerously overcrowded, where passengers outnumber life jackets, if you can find them, and where there are no safety announcements. I, in fact, would like to invite all honourable ministers to attempt maritime travel like the majority of this country travels, Madam Speaker. To quote leadership guru John C. Maxwell, Madam Speaker, I quote, "Everything rises and falls on leadership," unquote. I believe that this is the same when it comes to a country. When the leadership is fair, when the leadership is compassionate, when the leadership leads with love first and foremost, you see that reflected in its citizens. Having watched the interjections, the aping and other behavior on show in this house over the last 4 years, I cannot help but be reminded of a schoolyard bully and the obligatory gaggle of buddies always jostling for an approving pat on their backs. Just about everyone I speak to, Madam Speaker, hopes that we will be better behaved over the next 4 years. That, Madam Speaker, I believe should be easy to do if we keep in mind always who put us here and why, and who pays our salaries. In my first few days in Parliament, Madam Speaker, I see, hear and feel the might of the government side, and hear how they are the only ones who have or are capable of the many great things quoted endlessly. The Honourable Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, said in his speech on Monday, "I am here to listen to you and take your concerns seriously. I am here to build a better future for all Fijians, wherever they may be in the country," unquote. Well, Madam Speaker, we on this side of the floor represent 49.6% of the Fijians that the Honourable Prime Minister was talking about. So please, I ask that the other side of the House, Madam Speaker, take the concerns of that 49.6% of Fijians seriously when we highlight them in this House. Any government must remain transparent and answerable to the public at all times. And a good opposition should put the spotlight on serious issues and have them resolved quickly, Madam Speaker. Finally, Madam Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank some people. To each of you who believed in me enough to entrust me with your vote, I thank you. I will do my utmost to be worthy of the honour and privilege of representing you in Parliament. I thank the leadership of the National Federation Party, Professor Biman Prasad, Mr. Pio Tikundundua, Vice Presidents, Executives and Selection Committee members for deeming me worthy to represent my party, the NFP. To fellow NFP candidates, we fought a good, clean, issues-based fight without resorting to personal attacks and vitriol. We all should hold our heads high. Madam Speaker, I have nothing but gratitude for the NFP staff and youth. Madam Speaker, I have nothing but gratitude for the NFP staff and youth. Madam Speaker, their energy, positivity and good vibes and tons of knowledge continue to be invaluable. I am grateful also to all NFP supporters, blue collar, white collar, no collar, in the factories, offices and on the streets, who campaign for me with or without my knowledge, at home and abroad. They are the machinery that drives this push to be that positive change in Fiji we so desperately need. Thank you to my close family from Ravuni, Bulia and Nawoka, who were the people I relied on the most to get my message out. My tutavales, tamai obeti in Lomaivuna, tamai sala in Nawoka, and my brothers, Semi Sarasau in Bulia, Cholame Koroibue and Ravuni, and Sailosi Vunintakua in Sakoda. I also thank my Mbulo Tavu Titilia from the chiefly village of Tavu Lebu for her energy and passion. To the amazing team of young people who are my polling agents, I am so grateful. Thank you, Mum and Dad. Powasa, Annalisa, Zach and Em, I could not have gone on this journey without your support from day one. There are those who kept me in their prayers, Madam Speaker, from within my church family and from without, and I thank them for their prayer support. There are many I will not thank publicly because they risk their jobs and income to support me, a sad reality in today's Fiji, but I'm so grateful to you all. I promise that I will do all that I can to be a good servant. And I leave us with this reading from Jeremiah 9:23-24. Thus says the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, let not the mighty man glory in his might, nor let the rich man glory in his riches, but let him who glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord, exercising loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness on the earth. For in these things I delight, says the Lord. Madam Speaker, Bahut Dhanyavad, Faixia, Shir, and Shukran.